record on this. All right, so you're probably going to have to accept that, would be my guess, or maybe you already did once. So does it say you have to accept the recording?
No, it is.
Cool, good. I already did one. So, all right. So this is coach to coach. So Brenda, one of the things you're struggling with is getting people to actually do the things that they're supposed to do prior to them showing up. Okay, so
Or at all.
or at all, right? So the first thing we have to do as a coach is we have to be very, very clear of what our expectations are. Expectations, right? So really clear on what our expectations are. Okay, so here's what happens. We're not clear on what our expectations are for our people sometimes. And when I mean clear, I don't mean like, well, they should know that. No, you got to be explicit, right? So I want to like this. This is a great word, explicit. Okay, explicit means I have to be extraordinarily clear. I don't want them to have any amount of wonder at all what the expectation is, right? So I've got to get really clear on what the expectation is as a coach. Otherwise, I'm going to have all kinds of really weird stuff. So super clear expectations. Number one, so let's say, how are we going to communicate? Is one expectation. Time, when are we going to communicate? So you've got communicate how, you've got time, when, and C is like about what. Okay, so as we're managing expectations, I'm going to go through a conversation with everybody that I'm working with as a coach and say, okay, as your coach, here's what my expectations are. Number one, you and I are going to communicate on a regular basis. We can communicate however we agree. So I want to make sure I'm communicating in a manner that works for me and I'm communicating in a manner that works for them also. Okay, so for you in your position, coaching some of these people and mentoring some of these people, you're doing them a service by doing that. This is not an income generated. The amount of time and energy and effort you put into that is not worth the amount you're getting paid. Okay, so as a mentor, you are contributing more in a charitable contribution to somebody. And is there a little bit of money involved with it? Sure. But if you spent that same amount of time, energy, and effort on yourself, you'd make 5, 6, 7, 10 times that by doing just one house sale in a month in the amount of time you spend mentoring 4, 5, 6, 7 people. So when you look at the income part, you're not doing it for the money. Okay. If you are doing it for the money, we got to talk about something completely different. Just like get your money right. Okay. But we got to be really clear on my expectations. So in order for me to take you on as a mentor and you to be a mentee, I have certain expectations. So let's be clear. So now you can do this in this interview. When you do the quick interview introduction, they just hand them to you. You call them, talk to them, make sure we're clear. I want to make sure we're clear. Number one, we're going to communicate on a weekly basis. Number two, you're going to show up. You're going to show up at this time once a week. And I expect you to show up and I expect you to have your stuff done. If you show up and you don't have your stuff done, I'm going to ask you to turn around and go right back out the door. Because we're not going to talk about step 2 until you've done step 1. If you come in and said, I didn't get step 1 done, great, you get 1 mulligan. And the next time that shot counts. You come in the next time, you didn't do step 1, I'm done with you. We're not doing anything else. We stop, dead stop, not playing anymore, right? If you're not doing your part and I'm doing my part, this is not a good relationship. If I'm doing my part and you're doing your part, you're going to be successful. If I'm doing my part and you're not, just frustrating. That's on you. You're going to fail if you're not doing the parts that you need to do. I'm not going to be asking you to do crazy stuff. I'm going to be asking you to do basic stuff that makes you get to the point where you are competent. People see you as an expert and you're actually selling houses and you're not going to get thrown in jail the way you do it. Are we good? Yes. Okay. And I'm going to ask you first to put together your sphere of influence, which is name, address, phone number, email address of everybody you know, like, and trust. We're going to build that list out. Okay. That's step 1.
Oh, wait. I don't know anybody.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So you don't know anybody. So why are you getting into sales? That's like saying to me, hey, Brenda, I want to be a chef, but I hate food. Really? Because guess what? The real estate business is a people business. It's a relationship business. And if you don't know any people and have any people and you are X amount of years old and you don't have any friends, you don't have any sphere of influence, I'm going to tell you right now, this business is probably going to be impossible for you. Now, there are ways to build that. But if you're telling me you're 40 something years old and you have 0 friends, I'm going to tell you right now, you're probably in the wrong business. should probably go into the computer business, go into something where you don't actually have to gain the trust of other people. Obviously, it's not a strong suit of yours or nor a natural suit of yours. So tell me, why did you get into this business if you don't even do a good job of building relationships with normal people? Because this is a relationship business.
Well, I typically tell them to download the database out of their phone.
Sure.
Let's just start there.
Sure. So do you not actually have a database? Do you not actually know any people? Or you just don't know what that means? Two different conversations.
Yeah, so I'm just saying to you,
Yeah.
that is a typical response that I
Yeah.
am getting from these new agents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't know anybody? You
Yes.
don't go to the grocery store? You know, do you know how many people that I
Yes.
have gotten as customers from being in the grocery store and asking them, hey, do you know how to cook that spaghetti squash in the microwave?
Yeah.
You know, it's just starting a conversation. But
Yes.
I'm sorry, interrupted.
Yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine. So we've got to get really, really clear on what we're going to be doing.
Right.
Make sure we've got the right person, right? So my question to you then would be, okay, you don't really know any people. So are you saying you don't really know any people, or you don't really know what I'm talking about, and that's why you're answering it that way? So do you have friends? Yes. Do you have local family? Yes. Do you get your hair cut? Do you know the person cutting your hair? Yes. Do you have children? Yes. Do you let your children out of the house? Do they play soccer? Do the other kids that are playing soccer have parents? Do you get to see them on a regular basis? If you have those types of things and just need to learn how to gather that information in those normal interactions, great. But if you're the kind of person that's like, well, no, I really kind of just sit at home and I really don't do anything and I don't have any hobbies and I really don't do much, I'm going to tell you right now, this might not be the right business for you. Just because you can get licensed, just because you want to be a real estate agent, you might not realize, because nobody in the training class said, you might not realize that you're not the right fit for a real estate business, because real estate business is a relationship business. Are you aware of that? Okay, so as a coach, right out of the gate, before we even get started, I'm not going to spend my time nor waste my time with somebody that when we say, here's what you're going to need to do, and they're like, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, so you're a chef, and we're going to have you debone that chicken. I don't like touching chickens. You really probably shouldn't be a chef if you don't like touching chickens, because guess what? Unless you're at a vegan restaurant, you can be a vegan chef, but like, well, knives scare me. Well, then you're not going to be a chef of any kind, because if you're scared of knives, the chef is off the limit, right? It's like, I'm going to be a professional swimmer. Cool. One drawback, I'm afraid of water. All right. Are you willing to get over that? No. Then you're not going to be a swimmer. Okay. So this is the kind of conversation we need to have. So we've got the expectations in line. Okay. So as we establish those expectations, so here's the next one. So we're doing like, how are we going to communicate? When are we going to communicate? I expect you to show up. I expect you to respond, so forth and so on. I will be available for you, but you also have to respond to me. And then what are we going to be doing? Let's just be clear. Here's what we're going to start with. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Cool. So the part, this what are we going to do? Then are you willing? So what I'm doing is I'm getting buy-in here. Okay. Are you willing to do these things? And I'm just going to be really simple. I'm going to, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more steps after this, but I want to make sure you're willing to do step number 1 and 2. Because if you don't do step number 1 and 2, you have almost zero chance of being successful. There's a reason 87% of realtors fail in their first 2 years. They're not doing 1 and 2. So you need to be a survivor. You need to be one of the 13%. And I will tell you, most people say, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And then when I tell them, okay, do it, and then hold them accountable to doing it, when they don't do that, I just want you to know how we're gonna handle that. Okay. So are you willing to do this stuff? Yes. Okay. And then if not, then what? Okay, because I'm a really nice guy. I'm gonna keep giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and they're gonna keep taking and taking and taking and taking. And I'm like, here's free food, 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 and it's all sitting on the table rotting. And they keep wanting more free food. And I'm like, you didn't even eat the stuff that's on it. Like, why do I keep giving you more stuff when you haven't eaten what I gave you? Like, you let all of that rot? Oh my God. It's like, I'm gonna give this to somebody that's gonna eat it, right? I'll give it to a homeless dude and sit there and watch him eat it before I give it to you, because you're wasting it. That's just wasteful. It's wasteful of my time, energy, and effort, right? So I'm thinking now, the older I get, Brenda, The older I get, I'm like, you know what really, really makes me mad about some of the stuff that went down in the last week? Not even like mad enough to be like, I'm really mad and it ruined any of my moments, but like that flash of that guy wasted my time. That guy wasted how many hours of my time that I could have spent doing any number, even doing nothing would have been more fulfilling.
2 years, 2 years of my life. Yes.
So no more, right? So we have to protect ourselves. And if you're not doing what we say to do, not willing to, or just not going to, then how do we handle this? Now we've got a coaching scenario where I'm helping coach you, I'm helping mentor you. I've got clear expectations, how we're going to communicate, when we're going to communicate, where I expect you to be, so forth, what you're going to be doing, and then are you willing to do it? This is your closing question. Are you willing to do it? And they're like, yeah, sure, totally, sure. Okay, so what happens if you don't? And you just, yeah, you just like shoot yourself. Don't shoot me. Put yourself out of your misery, right? Okay, so
they gotta go. They gotta go.
if I say, I want to be a cook, great. Did you get your pots and pans? No. Did you get your chef's knife? No. Did you get your hat? No. Like, then, like, what the hell? Like, you're not even trying to pretend to be one. Like, you haven't even gotten the, like, you're a chef with no pots, pans, knives, or chef hat. I mean, like, you're not even a chef. You're not even trying to pretend to be a chef. So I'm going to say, your answer to me is like, okay, I'm not going to spend any more of my time on you wasting my time. So we're clear with that. So if you don't do these things, I'm done with you. Okay, so you saw Go-Go and Go-Go's way of saying it. She says it was a beautiful lilt. She could punch you in the face. I just, my Siri just fired up. She could punch you in the face and you'd be like, thank you, that sounded lovely. Right? Oh, wow, she punched me in the face. So nice.
Her talk, but that was funny, you know.
Yeah.
You show up 5 minutes late, I'll never talk to you again. I was like, I needed to hear that.
This is somebody that, so here's what happens. The people that become coaches and people who become mentors typically have a servant-based heart, but they also typically end up becoming a doormat because they don't have a clear understanding of what the expectations should be. And if they establish clear expectations and the people buy in on that and say, yes, I'm willing to do that. And if I don't, then yes, I agree, you should fire me. Think about it like this. At McDonald's, your job is to make the French fries. You don't make the French fries. What does the boss do? Get out, right? The first time you're like, dude, what's the deal with the French? Well, I didn't know. You just follow the Ronald McDonald shoes around the manual. It literally has Ronald McDonald shoes you follow around the manual. It walks you right through how to do it, okay? So let's do it together. And then you come back later and you're like, well, where are the French fries? And they're like, well, I didn't make them. Okay, guess what? You're fired, right? Your job is to make French fries. You didn't do the French fries. I showed you how to do the French fries. You're still not doing the French fries. You are no longer the French fry guy. Get out. Okay, that's what you have to be clear on that, right? You didn't do your part. I did my part. You didn't do your part. You can't even be mad at me. If you want to be mad, you should be mad at yourself because you didn't do your part. You said you were willing and then you didn't do your part. I'm done with you. I don't know what else to do. Well, but. Okay. All right. So this is not a 3-strike game. Well, you know, Brenda, you got to be nice and you got to give them 3 strikes and you got to give them a second chance. I'm all for second chances. Okay. But I'm not for 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. Like when someone shows you who they are, believe them, good or bad. Right? Good or bad, believe them. So you do not have time in your life to waste your time on people wasting your time. You got to, like, my boss is saying, Dave Kennord, president of EXP Growth, says, Russ, we've got to focus on the one swimming towards the boat. Well, I'm with you, right? So a lot of the mentors are trying to drag dead bodies behind the boat. They're like, I got a bunch of people on the hook. Like, stop dragging dead bodies. You got to get the ones that are swimming towards the boat. If you're not swimming towards the boat, I am going to rescue the people that are swimming towards the boat first. If you're laying in the water, floating around, waiting for a shark to eat you, I'm going to let them. But that's on you. That's your choice. You can either swim towards the boat or not. I can't make that choice for you. So you got to swim towards the boat. If you're not swimming towards the boat, I'm done with you. Are we good? Do you accept that challenge? Yes. Cool. Like, you never see a professional sports trainer has a professional sports person in the gym and the guy's sitting on the bench and he's like, okay, we're going to do 5 reps. And the guy's like, nah. that trainer's like, then get out, right? There's like, no, like your job is here to work out. Like no is not an option, right? Your job is to be successful in this business. Failure is not an option. And as a coach, I think many times we set back a little bit. It's like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to upset them. And I don't want to be the mean one. And I don't want people to think I'm a hard ass. Well, when I get clear on the expectations and tell them where we're at and they agree to this, now this is what you agreed to. You're not doing your part. I did my part. You're not doing your part. If you can't do your part, we're done. Okay. Now, if I haven't done this and I just randomly boot people out or stop talking to them, that's a completely different ballgame, right? I got to be clear on the expectations. You didn't meet the expectations. So for that reason, I'm done. So watch Shark Tank. You ever seen Shark Tank? You'll see Lori Grenier will say, because of that, and because of that, and because of this, I'm out. It's very clear. Because your business is this, you said this, you're doing that, and because of that interaction, I'm out. So she's saying that doesn't work for me, so I'm done. And does everybody go, wow, Lori's so mean? She's just saying, listen, I'm not going to invest my money in that for these reasons. I'm out. I'm not the person that's right for that business. I don't think I can bring anything to your business because of the way your business is set up and what you're doing. That's not really in my wheelhouse. So for that reason, I'm out. And you go, makes sense to me, right? Anybody that gets upset,
it's not my job to do their job.
Agreed, right? So your job is to help guide them to their goals, right? So if I want bigger pectoral muscles, I need to do push-ups, right? You can do all the push-ups in the world. It's not going to help me. I can do all the push-ups in the world. Not going to help you, right? So like, hey, I'm doing a bunch of push-ups. I look great. You look like crap. Well, are you doing push-ups? No. But I want to look like you. Well, then you've got to do what I do. Well, like I can't do it for you. Okay, I can't diet for you. I can't exercise for you. I can't, none of it, right? You got to do your part. My job is your tour guide. My job isn't to drive the bus. I'm going to tell you where to drive, right? You got to drive the bus. So you got to get really clear on the expectations as a coach / mentor. And if you're not really clear on the expectations and what happens if they don't do it, then you end up in a contentious relationship. And if you violate this, and say, you said you were willing, and then I don't hold you accountable to it. Now I've set up a position where I haven't done good by them as a coach or a mentor, right? A good coach or mentor is not going to let somebody off the hook. Remember when you and I were working together? Like, you got to get your sphere together and you got to do it. It's like, make you do it, right? And if you don't do it, we're done. There's no point in moving forward on this. And as soon as you start moving,
I wanted to change my business. I wanted to grow. I wanted to be different.
yes.
And so in the position that I'm in, where I'm with new agents, you know, they don't have that past experience of
Correct.
this didn't work and this didn't work and this didn't work and I'm banging my head against the wall.
Yes.
You know, they're at the very beginning and I'm trying, you know, it's been a challenge, but I think that you have it as E, I have it as 5. The accountability there is where I have failed and need to pick that up.
See, and that's as a coach, when I evaluate, okay, so I'm evaluating myself as a coach and a mentor, and I say, okay, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? Well, I'm not holding them accountable to what they said they were going to do. And
Right.
let's be clear, that's kind of fundamental to your job. But a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to be the bad guy. Well, you're not being a bad guy. You're saying, this is what we expect, and this is what I do. And it doesn't do me any favors, doesn't do them any favors by me letting them off the hook.
Yeah.
Right? If your job is to catch fish, letting fish off the hook is not the way to get fish in the boat. You got to keep the hook in them. And if they don't, then it's like done. Cut the line, let them go swim off. But don't, like, I can't pretend as a coach and a mentor to really care about their success and not hold them accountable to what I know will make them successful and what they agreed to do. So I got to say, okay, as a coach, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10? How am I doing as a coach? Am I holding people accountable to the right stuff? Yes, no. If I don't, then I get this muddling kind of, like, I'm just like, it's so hard, Brenda, you don't understand, it's so hard, like, because you're not being definitive, right? You're not being definitive, you're not being clear, and you wonder why it's hard, because you're not being definitive, not being clear, you're not achieving the task you need. You're not getting your 30 points on a weekly basis, your 30 points to success tracker. If you're not doing that, yes. If you're not doing that, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. So did you make that prettier? You made that prettier, didn't you? Hey, by the way, can you send me that? Because that looked pretty. Yours is prettier than mine. Mine was like low tech
Mine
sledgehammer.
has, oops, let me see
Yeah,
if we
send
can
it to,
get it.
yeah, send
Mine
it.
has all of the top stuff, your 30
Nice.
points, and then
Yeah,
all your stuff, because Brenda
yeah.
couldn't keep it on 2 sheets, because I can't, it's hard enough to keep on with one sheet
Send me
sometimes.
a PDF. Send me a PDF file of that. You just made my life better.
Yeah,
I like yours better than mine.
it's it's in Excel. Will that work? I
Yeah,
can
that's
save it
perfect.
to PDF,
Yeah, it's
whatever you want.
perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So to
Okay.
recap, we've got to be really clear as a mentor and a coach. We got to be really clear of our expectations. And then we've got to make sure we tell them how to communicate, when we're going to communicate, what we're going to communicate about, and then get their buy-in. Once they get their buy-in, then if you don't, blah, 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 and then you hold them to that line, right? It's like, I'm not making people do something they didn't agree to. It's like, here's what you want. Here's the agreement. Okay, so here's what you have to do. Got it? Like, okay, first off, you're gonna make a chicken recipe. So the first thing you gotta do is get a chicken. You willing to do that? Yeah, cool, good. Like if you don't get a chicken, what do we do? If you don't come back with a chicken next time, we're done. We're not cooking chicken without a chicken. So sphere of influence, step one, gotta get that list together. If you don't get that together, game over, we're done. Not moving forward, telling you about step 2, 3, 4, making you feel warm and fuzzy and loved and appreciated. You didn't do your job. My job isn't to pander to you and make you feel good. You didn't do your job. You don't get the award. You don't get a participation trophy, and you don't get a bunch of mulligans, right? You get one mulligan. Next time we pull this, and by the way, here's a checklist. Next time we pull this, I'm done with you. And the
Okay.
only way you can come back to me is if you come back and say, Brenda, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I committed to do it. I agreed to do it, didn't do it. You're right for kicking me out, not talking to me, not taking the next step, not coddling me, not doing therapy with me 800 times, and I still haven't done step 1. If I don't do step 1, I expect you to kick me back out again. And by the way, I'm coming back to you. And by the way, here's my whole list. Can you double check it for me? Now we're talking about, that's the only way you can come back in. It's the only way you can come back in. You come back in with your hat in your hand and the thing done, then we can talk. Not, I'm going to call you and talk to you for a half an hour about it. And I'm going to talk to you another half hour about it. And, well, I'm sorry I didn't get it because I get the story and the rest. It's like, that story doesn't make you money. That story is making you broke. Okay.
Yeah,
You got to hold them accountable.
I have one that just doesn't respond, and then kind of shows up whenever he wants to, 15 minutes late.
Okay. So
And I'm like,
I'm going to have,
yeah.
I'm going to have a come to Jesus conversation with him, right? And it goes like this. Here's how we're going to communicate. Here's when and the timeline. Here's what we're going to communicate about. Are you willing to do that? Because if you're not, then what? Here's what happens. If you don't start doing it like this and following, I'm done with you, right? And that's not on me. I'm not being mean. I'm not picking on you. I'm not like, this is me not being in tough love. It's like, you're telling me you want to be successful. You're not doing what it takes to be successful. For me to empower and enable you to not be successful and then just not say anything about it would be a bad thing for me. So as a coach and a mentor, I have to say something. That's my job, is to say something. Your job of your doctor when he sees a giant growth on you is to tell you you have cancer, right? Like, well, I just don't want to tell him that. Well, I know, I don't either. Like, I don't like to do it. I don't like to punch people in the nose, but when you're not doing your part, you ask me to punch you in the nose and I don't. Now, am I a good coach? Am I a good mentor? No. So I have to hold myself accountable to do what I said I was going to do, which is hold you accountable. If you're not willing to do your part, you and I are done. If we don't have this, don't show up anymore. You're done.
Right. By me not doing that, it is causing me stress.
Yep.
Because I feel like I'm not achieving, because I am an achiever. I am very much type A, but it also causes me anxiety because I don't just mentor whomever. I care about my mentees. You know, they become a part of my family. They enter my house. And so it's very difficult. It's like kicking one of your children out, you know, they're my babies. So, but this is good information, Russ, as always, because I have not been doing the step 5.
Yeah, so this isn't even tough.
There's not been that if you don't show up, I will never.
Yeah, well, and maybe you can soften that slightly, but like at the end I say, okay, so there's 2 ways I could say this. If you don't get your crap together, I'm done with you, but I'm going to say it a little bit nicer than that. So here's what I'm going to say to you. I really need you to do your part. I'm doing my part. You're not doing your part. And I can't keep doing this. I won't keep doing this. I'm just letting you know, you got to do your part. Are you willing? Yes. Good. Here's what I expect. If you're not willing to do that, and you don't do that, the next time we go here, I'm going to stop. You're not welcome. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not helping you. We're done. You got to do your part. If you're not doing your part, I'm done. Okay. So we're clear. So now you can punch them in the nose, tell them the way you shouldn't tell them, and then tell them the way you need to tell them to soften it. Do you understand? Yes. So what's going to happen next time you show up late? You don't show up. You refuse to participate in your success. You haven't done what you needed to do. What's going to happen?
Okay.
You're going to stop talking to them, right? You're done. I have to cut you off, right? My job is to help you be successful. You're making it impossible for me to do my job. So I don't want to waste my time anymore with you wasting my time. So we got to move forward.
Right. Well, and it sets a
Good.
clear boundary, because instead of me having to play the passive aggressive part,
Yes.
which I have been doing of,
Yep.
okay, I've called, I've texted, I've emailed, no
Yep.
response.
Done.
Okay, now
Done.
I'm not going to call, text, or email. I'm going to wait for them to reach out to me. Well, that doesn't work either. So
Okay. So here's the thing.
having that expectation of, if you don't respond or show up, then don't bother doing it at all.
Right.
Kind of.
So I did this, you did that, and now here's how I'm going to go, right? You did this. So you got to be clear on that, right? So as a good coach, I've got to be really, really clear on expectations so forth. I sent you a text, a phone call, and an email. I got zero response from you. Due to your actions, I'm done.
Got it.
If you want me to talk to you again, we're going to have to start over and re-clarify what our expectations are. Ball's in your court. Let me know what you want to do. Done. And then I let them go. Right? If you truly love someone, set them free. If they come back to you, set them free again, because that means nobody else wanted them.
Okay. And then that could very well be the truth.
Like,
Unfortunately.
you have sucked everywhere else you were. You're probably going to suck here too, because it's not us. Like the people that just left my group, God love them, right? They, like the ones that aren't doing the basic stuff, they just disappear and stop showing up. Like, I'm not chasing them. Like, you didn't do the basics. You still haven't done the basics. Years later, you're still not doing the basics. You're still wondering why it's a struggle. Like, I'm not playing this game anymore, right? So I'm done. Like, go knock yourself out. Go be somebody else's problem. You're not my problem anymore. So now I'm getting more definitive of that. I did this, you did that. And because of that, this is where we stand. Ball's in your court. Now, if they come back to you, say, okay, we're going to get clear on the expectations. You go right back to, okay, step one. Now you're going to start over. And if they come back with their hat in their hand and they're willing to do it, and then you're clear with them again, like, listen, you already had your mulligan. Now, then the next time you no-show without a darn good reason, like, you better have been hit by a bus. God forbid. Hope you don't get hit by a bus, but you better have been hit by a bus. That's the only excuse to not make it and do what you said you're going to do. You say you're a man of your word, then act like it. Wow. Okay. I'm going to hold you to being what you say you are, right?
And
this,
show up on time. It's disrespectful.
absolutely. If you can't show up on time, don't show up. And by the way, when you're like, well, I didn't show up because I was running a little bit late and because of, like, no, like, really show up. Like, you don't see a whole lot of really high level business people just randomly wandering in 15 minutes late on meetings. Like, I know people that are way busier than I am, and they show up on time, or they let you know a rare occasion that they're going to run late. They learn to control their time and learn to control their business and learn, hey, by the way, well, traffic. Well, you should have left earlier. It's not like it's the first time you've driven in Tampa. It's not like the first time you ever went to, or like, I know if I'm going to go back and forth, I better check and make sure it's not a 2-hour drive instead of a 1-hour drive. I was at a meeting and the person's like, well, you don't understand. They showed up 40 minutes late for the training, Brenda. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, you got to turn around, go right back out the door. It's like, you show up 40 minutes late for training, you like jump in the middle of it. You missed the whole setup for the thing. Like, it's not, I'm not going to start over for you. So you got to go. She walked in, she's like, what did I miss? I'm sorry, I'm late. Traffic was heavy. So I got here from Tampa and I was on time for a 10 o'clock meeting. You're in the town and you couldn't be there for a 10 o'clock meeting. That's a failure to plan. So for that reason, I'm just asking you respectfully for you to go. And she's like, well, fine, then I quit. Thank you very much. You saved me from having to fire you. So, like, I don't play that way. Like, you show up and do like you, but we have to have standards. It's not me being a hard ass and everybody in the room's like, whoa, Like, no, this is somebody that's done this multiple times. It's not somebody just showed up. This is their excuse of why they're never moving forward. And pretty much the only reason they're showing up later is because they want free food. That's
Well,
why they show up for food. They don't show up for the training. So
nobody has really ever held them accountable for showing up late because they didn't want to hit that brick wall of, well, excuse me, but I couldn't get here. Well, fine, don't come back. And I've had agents like that. That is more difficult for me, personality wise.
Yeah.
But it's something that I'm going to have to incorporate because it's causing so much.
Brenda, so let's be clear. It's disrespectful for the other people that is being distracted by this or are being distracted by this when somebody else is not being respectful. Now, you just were disrespectful to everybody in the room, not just me, everybody in the room, because you show up late, you're not participating, you're not showing, we're done, right? So we got to work on the ones swimming towards the boat. That's what we got to do. So as a coach and as a mentor, we got to stand up and help the ones that are swimming towards the boat, right? And it's not you being a bad guy. We established the expectations. They didn't meet them. We're done.